is education. We've been speaking to a few clubs. They've invited us to speak. So if you belong to a club that's looking for a speaker to get information about Rossmoor, we would be happy to come out and talk to you about trash and your trash enclosures and how to save your mutual money by making sure your trash enclosure the trash goes in the right place, because we get fined. So let Trash Talk know through the website. There are enclosure posters. I'm sure a lot of you see the posters in your enclosures for organics or the food waste, and one for recycling and one for actual garbage landfill. A lot of enclosures do not have those posters. And one of our members, Susan Bennett, is making a concerted effort to work with people. So if you notice that your enclosure needs the posters, again, go to the Sustainable Rossmoor website and go to Trash Talk, and we can help you get those posters. And there's a new poster for moving out, suggestions for what to do for moving out, because a lot of the problems in the enclosures are from people moving out and they just throw everything in the enclosure, and then your mutual gets fined. And we have good solutions for that. And finally, you might notice in the Rossmoor News every week there are trash tips. So please take a look at those. And we're looking to a future article about the enclosure posters and some new recycling handouts that you can get up at Rockview Drive. There are some new handouts. And let's see, what else did I want to say about that? That's about it. All right, thanks.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, Jess, ban toxic pesticides.
Hi, my name is Jess Clark, and I wanted to report to you that we had an amazing meeting last Tuesday at the Dollar Clubhouse. We had over 60 people, and there's so many people here today, but a good turnout does matter. And we discussed primarily the mutuals and the fact that our landscaping contracts are up, and tried to provide people with tools and resources, but also the opportunity to come together as a community to think about their mutual. The last point that I wanted to mention was the RFP on the Audubon certification. I've been asked a lot about that, but it is still in the planning committee and will go to the full RWC board. And we're very hopeful that we're on a good road to be Audubon certified, and I'm very optimistic. So, but no person does everything by themselves. And so I want to recognize my committee. They have been wonderful. Don McGregor in the back, who just spoke, he told me he was going to go to one meeting. Well, Don, you're still there, and this book is for you. It's called Toxic Legacy. Another wonderful person on my committee. And let's see, who else is here? And Jean is back there. And if you have Jean on your committee, you will stay organized and you will accomplish a lot. Thank you. But then we've had the people who weren't at the first meeting. We had to have 3 people of Sustainable Rossmoor to form a committee. And then others sort of stepped up and got in and helped us a number. Joy Zimmerman, who's not here today, she was wonderful. She edited so many of our materials. And Carol Weed, who's back at the sign-in table. I have a book. It's called The Measure of Our Lives by Toni Morrison. So this is for you, Carol, and one's for Jean. And I'm wondering why I picked this book, but Toni Morrison is one of my heroes, and I thought you might enjoy her. The other person that I wanted to mention is Alice King in the back. She is our Mutual One hero, and I have one of Toni Morrison's books for her as well. I'll bring it back there. And Nancy Vasco, yay, right? When you want someone to have your back and to be positive, you can count on Nancy. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. That's great. Oops. Okay, Bruce, tree planting and preservation.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bruce Poster. I'm co-chair of the Tree Planting Committee, along with Leila McCullough. So we are not meeting on a regular basis right now, but we are still active. Leila gives tree tours periodically, as does Richard McPherson. And we're still working on that tree handbook and providing information to mutuals. Leila's got a series planned on oak trees that are going to be on the Rossmoor News. And in past years, we've done oak tree planting, planted acorns, and people have been asking me, are you going to do it this year? Well, if there were people willing to take that on, it's a big job, and it requires a fair amount of organization and work. If somebody would like to take that on, we can do it again, but we need some energy to make that happen. So, stay tuned.
Thanks, Bruce. Okay, tonight's planet-friendly snacks were brought by Patricia, Lark, Susan, Joy, and Jess, and so thank you to all of you for doing that. I forgot to bring a sign-up sheet for the next meeting, but if you'd like to volunteer to help bring some of the snacks, let me know. I'll be in the back. Okay, and Susan, do you want to come and introduce Mark while we figure out how to switch over to his slideshow?
Okay, I'll do that. Okay, I will do that, yeah. Okay.
So I double checked, I hope I say it right, Mark. His last name is pronounced Landuyt. Okay, Mark Van Landuyt. Longtime resident of Contra Costa County. And as you can see, chair of the Mount Diablo chapter of the Sierra Club. But he also has a whole bunch of other stuff. Really an energetic activist in many domains. He's president of something called Generation Green. He is senior communications strategist for the Green-Blue New Deal for the city of Richmond. He's the communications director for the Center for Social Epidemiology. And I can tell you that that title really rang bells for me, because when I was studying and writing about theories of change, I was really interested in how new ideas can spread, like, God forbid, a disease, but the same mechanism of how things can spread socially. And I don't know whether that's what that name means, but no, yes?
Health.
What?
It's about health.
Oh, it's about health?
Yeah.
Oh, forgive me then. Okay. I have an active imagination. And he has a Bachelor of Applied Science in Economics from UC Berkeley. So he has that grounding in the money side of things, which I think will be very helpful as he addresses a very hot topic right now, data centers.
And Susan, thank you so much. And,
I'll just ask everybody to please hold your questions until the end.
all right.
Questions and comments, and we'll get them at the end. Thank you.
And your questions and comments are going to be very welcome. We have a lot to talk about tonight. And I just want to thank all of you for being here. And I want to thank Sustainable Rossmoor, this incredibly vibrant organization. If any of you are not members, please join up for Sustainable Rossmoor. And this is where I get...
You're hired.
And this is where I get acquainted with my slideshow here. They say, yeah, so far, yeah, okay. They say power corrupts, but PowerPoint corrupts absolutely. And it used to be said that Dwight Eisenhower used to read his speeches with a real sense of discovery. And I think I'll have that tonight. Because as president, I will go to Korea, that kind of thing. So this is right now in city council meetings across the country. The last place you would expect to see a lot of people, hundreds of people are showing up, local residents, families, and they are showing up for one reason. There is an influx in the United States of big tech companies putting data centers, or some people say data centers, in rural suburban areas. And they're doing it by subverting the democratic process. They're doing it by going straight to city council members with non-disclosure agreements. And this is going against the wishes of the local residents. Right now, 63% of Americans want a moratorium on data centers. 71%, that's 7 out of 10 Americans, oppose data centers in their own communities. And what's remarkable about this movement that is happening now is that people across all divides, political, economic, regional, they're coming together around one issue, AI data centers. And tonight we're going to discuss why. And they say a picture tells 1,000 words, but I'm still going to talk too much. This is Texas, where this image is happening. This is Nebraska, and this is New Jersey. And just to show you what the city council meetings these days are looking like. Also, I wanted to make dramatic about this new era that we're living in. We have entered into an era of book burning. AI companies are buying up massive amounts of used books. They put them through machines where they cut off the spines, they tear out the pages, they scan the individual pages, they store that data into their servers, they use that data to train their AI modules, and they keep that data for themselves, and then they destroy those books. AI companies have purchased up 300 million used books, and that they've destroyed. The older the book, the better for them. We're talking antiquities, we're talking about one-of-a-kind editions, and when a society is destroying books, that's when you know something wrong is happening in that society. And so someone said if you want to know what it was like to live inside Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, or Germany under the Third Reich, or China under Mao, we're sort of in that period now. This is a data center. Forgive me for any of you who are erudite on this matter. I'm going to talk about data centers as if someone has never heard about them. Data centers have been with us for a very long time. They're an essential part of what makes the internet the internet. When you hear people talk about the cloud, which is a spectacular piece of marketing, the idea of a vaporous, non-material, piece of nature being the cloud. The cloud is just a bunch of computers that are hooked up to the internet. That's really what it is. And what you see here is a warehouse that will soon have rows and rows of microchips, CPUs, and just think that every Google search, every YouTube video, every GPS map, those data requests go to these processors with these chips. They're working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They are powered by a lot of electricity. And during the early days of broadband, the warehouses were small, fairly small. They were still a serious problem, but they were on the small side. Now that with the rise of artificial intelligence, data centers are now massive because of demand for more computing power. Now we have these AI data centers. They're the size of cities. They range from 40 acres to 40,000 acres. And there is a data center campus being created in Utah. That's 60,000 acres, which is over 2 times the size of Manhattan. They are thirsty for water. They are hungry for electricity. And this is what they look like. This is what an old-time data center would look like. A lot of processors. You see the tubes that are pushing water through. This is just to give you an idea of what they look like inside. Now, if you were inside, you would have to have ear protection because it is so loud because of the need to cool them. As we look at this, it's important. There's an important number I want you to keep in your mind tonight. A small data center uses as much power as 100,000 households. The larger data centers that are being built right now are going to be using 20 times that amount. So when you see a data center, one building, it's using as much as 2 million households worth of electricity. And by the way, that amount is just going to be increasing. So the International Energy Agency says that the electricity that data centers are going to be burning worldwide is going to triple by 2030. And so that's some 945 terawatts per hour for data centers. Here's the other number I want you to remember. In the United States, we have over 5,500 data centers. Last year, the big AI companies spent over $400 billion on building data centers. This year, they are set to spend over $600 billion building data centers. On slate is about 1,000 just to be added this year. And when I say the AI companies, I'm talking about Google, I'm talking about Microsoft, I'm talking about Alphabet, Meta, which is Facebook, and also the coders are going into building data centers as well, OpenAI, Anthropic. And there's this AI arms race about who can build the most and who could build the biggest. And like I said, the amounts of money that are being pushed into this AI bubble, they are staggering. They almost beg your belief. So where are these data centers being built? So the ideal is a rural or suburban area. What are AI companies looking for? They're looking for cheap land that has a power line and a local government willing to give big tax breaks, sales tax, property tax, economic development subsidies. There's a saying in big tech that the smaller the town, I think they're queuing me off already. There's a saying in big tech that the smaller the town, the easier it is to buy off their politicians. And that is what is going on, town after town. In Texas, they're buying up some of the best farmland, the most fertile farmland, because it's flat. That's what these AI companies are looking for, flat land. And here's the problem. Once that farmland is paved over, it will never be used for farming again. So you can see the numbers here. And again, it's remarkable to see some of the poorest communities in the United States are giving tax subsidies to some of the richest corporations in the United States to bring in these data centers. And they're competing with each other. I want you to see how many are happening. Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a second. The big topic we have to talk about, of course, is water. Now, these AI data center, the servers, they create a lot of heat. And heat destroys. So They need lots of water to prevent the processing units and the chips from overheating. A small gigawatt, 2 gigawatt data center would use about 300,000 gallons a day. The larger 8 gigawatt data center is currently being built will be using 4 times that amount. So the largest data centers will be using up to 5 million gallons of clean, non-salt water a day. And this is as much as a small city would be using, just to be clear. And inside the data centers, as I showed before, there's pipes and pipes of cool water being filtered in. The pipes are connected to evaporation towers, which are huge, they're the size of skyscrapers, and they're connected to jet turbines that is cooling the water. And I can't stress this enough. This is not salt water. This is portable, potable, arable water that is what human beings need to survive, and it's being used for artificial intelligence. The International Energy Agency predicts that by 2030, 1/3 of all clean, potable water will be used for data centers. Some estimates forecast that by 2028, 844 billion gallons of water will be used in a year just for data centers. And this is when, the country is in a water crisis in most areas, where there's so much data centers being built in Texas. Texas lost its sugarcane industry because it doesn't have enough water. And yet people are just. This is one of the more severe predictions for 2028. And we're talking about places that cannot sustain this for even more than 6 months without it affecting the residential areas. So the data centers are going to suck up all the water, and the people are going to be left with massive water bills because they're going to be competing with these companies that can outspend them. And it's very terrifying what's coming next. The other aspect that people are facing where data centers are built, and I'm not sure if this will be heard very clearly, but it's the sound, the noise that So the point of this video is that these data centers are just flush with these neighborhood residencies. And this is in Virginia. And
so we have our windows open and it's hard to listen to the water all the time. Yeah, I worry about that, the property value, because who want to resell the house? Who's going to want to buy the house with that noise? No one's going to want to buy it. They'll be like, no, we ain't moving there. I mean, and we liked it here. We've been here since 2009 and we loved it here. But now, I don't know. It's not the quiet country city living that we've been used to.
So I've been around data centers in Virginia, and there's the sound that you hear. Oh, I'm sorry, apologies. There's the sound that you hear from data centers, but there's also the sound that you feel, and you feel it in your chest. It's like suffocating. And these people are actually pretty used to it, but it's pretty shocking when you get around it. And what's amazing is these data centers are right on top of these neighborhoods, right on top of these communities. And what he's not complaining about is that his energy costs have gone up, his energy bills. I've known some people in Maryland whose electric bill went from $70 to $700 a month. And also their water bills double. And a lot of these people in, for instance, in Maryland, they're paying for the data centers that are in Pennsylvania. So it's not even the fact that the data centers in your community, it's that it's taking up the region's resources. And most of these, let me forward a bit. Most of these new data centers are being built in drought-stricken areas. Places like Arizona, Louisiana, Texas, Georgia, Tennessee. Total madness. I don't know if you've ever been to Arizona?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you wanted to put something somewhere where it would cool off, Arizona would probably be the last place you would choose. The local officials in Arizona say, don't worry, we're going to take all the water from the Colorado River. Now, the Colorado River is dead in many areas. It's completely dried up. And another factor about the Colorado River is that we have Wall Street investment firms that are buying up the water rights in the Colorado River. And just a side note for all of you, one of the big tasks we have ahead of us that we all need to take seriously is that we have to stop the privatization of water. Yeah. We have to push for legislation. We have to make sure that all politicians are aware because it's happening fast and it's going to be affecting everything. So one of the missions, talk to me afterwards. We got to stop the privatization of water. It is crucial. Yes. And let me go back to this, and this has real-world implications, just in Lake Tahoe. Starting next year, some of you probably heard about this. Lake Tahoe's energy provider, Nevada Energy, has told the 50,000 residents in Lake Tahoe that they are no longer going to be supplying electricity to their households because supplying electricity to Google, Apple, and Microsoft data centers is more profitable. So this has left these Lake Tahoe residents scrambling to figure out what they're going to do next, how they're going to get their electricity. And Nevada is the fastest growing state for data centers. And it's increasingly the most water-strapped state in the country. And by the way, those Lake Tahoe ratepayers have been paying for the increasing infrastructure for those data centers just by them paying their bills. And this is going to leave them high and dry. So this is how vicious this cycle is. Just to give you an idea of where things are being built. And again, total madness. Texas, Phoenix, Galveston, Louisiana. The people in these areas who object, they're constantly saying, it's like we don't exist. And this is a refrain we're hearing over and over again. It's a crisis that's environmental, that's technological, but it's also a crisis of democracy. The diesel machines. So remember, these AI campuses, they eat up power equivalent to small cities. Some areas just don't have the juice. The data centers are there, but they don't have the grid for it. So the local utilities are building out, and when they do, they increase the residents' customer bills to do so. But AI companies themselves are looking for alternatives. Something because the utilities are not fast enough. So they're looking for anything cheap and easy. Some are building natural gas plants. Some are using diesel gas generators. Meta, just a few days ago, cut a deal for nuclear power. And it's going to, when they start becoming their own power plants, it's a problem because these data centers are completely unregulated. And I can't stress this enough, completely unregulated. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, usually considered a nonpartisan independent regulatory agency, was placed under the control of the White House last year. But all of this was happening before Donald Trump, too. But now the mad rush to build data centers is at hysterical levels. And they're stealing land. What do I mean by that? So the utilities companies can do something that the AI companies can't do. which is take over land through eminent domain. And thanks to FARC, as it's known as, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, they're doing it in record-breaking numbers. The government having the power to force you off your own land, out of your own home, off your own farm. In Georgia, right now there's a data center project where they're going to increase the grid, and it is slated to cut through more than 330 private properties. And most of those homes on those properties are targeted for removal. So, I mean, we're talking about massive subsidies that are being carved out for these data centers as well. The big promise is about tax revenue. And some of that is true, particularly the early adopters. But right now, because there's so many being built and there's so many communities competing for it, some of these communities are giving away almost everything in terms of sales tax, property tax, and everything else. And it's hard for me to transition to this, but what is this all for? It's for a handful of big tech oligarchs.
Yes.
They are building artificial intelligent networks, neural networks. These are, we think of them as mostly large language models like ChatGPT or Claude or something similar. But they're also doing something stranger and more dark. The Elon Musk, the Mark Zuckerberg, the Jeff Bezos, they all loudly and proudly are telling us that AI is going to replace the need for human labor. And this is Sam Altman of OpenAI.
On our current trajectory, we believe we may be only a couple of years away from early versions of true superintelligence.
For what?
If we are right, by the end of 2028, more of the world's intellectual capacity could reside inside of data centers than outside of them. This is an extraordinary statement to make, and of course we could be wrong, but I think it really bears serious consideration. A superintelligence, at some point on its development curve, would be capable of doing a better job being the CEO of a major company than any executive, certainly me, or doing better research than our best scientists.
So, in Silicon Valley, they are trying to achieve something they call the singularity. The singularity is where artificial intelligence gains consciousness, where it outstrips human intelligence and human reasoning, and where it becomes self-creating, and where it becomes more powerful and more self-determining as a result. Some people say that they're trying to make God, which is a confounding thought. Some people say we're already at the singularity because AI models are now self-coding themselves. And there are AI neural networks that are refusing to turn themselves off even after humans command them to. So these are neural networks that are bent on self-survival. And those are the good AI models because there are some AI models that do not understand that the loss of human life is something that's undesirable. There are U.S. military neural networks. 9 out of 10 models would launch an assured nuclear self-destruction if under threat. 9 out of 10 of these models. We call this progress, but what are the aims? What is the overall mission of a lot of these models? Has to be questioned. Also, economically, people are going to be replaced by AI if these people have, simply put, CEOs don't have to deal with the headache of employees with all their needs. And right now, employees are training their AI models to replace them. So I live in Lafayette. There's a lot of Silicon Valley engineers there, a lot of mothers and fathers. There's been a huge purge. Let me just play this clip.
I think AI will probably, most likely, sort of lead to the end of the world. But in the meantime, there will be great companies created with serious machine learning.
That's revealing.
And I think AI
I
will
didn't know
probably,
this.
most likely, sort of lead to the end of.
And what I'm seeing right now is this huge hole being put into the economy. People who are part of the Silicon Valley boom, they're losing their jobs fast. And it's something similar to what I saw in the Midwest when it achieved, when all the companies left these Midwestern towns, and the deindustrialization just didn't affect the local economies, it affected the people that were there, where these workers, mostly men, could raise a family, could have a home, could expect some kind of better future for their kids. They really psychologically lost their identities, their purpose. And in that hole came opioids, meth, a lot of self-destructive tendencies. And it's happening right here in California, in the tech industry. And it's so fascinating. This is the future that is being designed with artificial intelligence. And it's the data centers that are going to be making it happen. And there's been a huge investment, even though a lot of these people think that it's a bubble. They're still pouring in hundreds of billions of dollars into it. A lot of the engineers, a lot of the people inside these companies are looking around begging to be regulated. So they're like a serial killer who's writing letters to the local police saying, "Stop me before I kill again." They're actually wanting to be regulated, and it's not happening. And this is a video from an AI conference in Switzerland. These are Amazon engineers.
Amazon employees say something against Project Nimbus and fire them. That's what you do. Fire them.
KI benötigt Unmengen an Ressourcen, an Strom. Nur schon der Gebrauch der Schweiz ist verantwortlich für fast 10% des nationalen Stromverbrauchs. Damit feuern die Tech-Oligarchen den Klimakollaps weiter.
Herbert Moore, shame on you! Shame on you! Come on stage! Answer those people! Project Nimbus! What are you doing? It's wrong with people that's giving you hard work, okay? You're not your hard When Amazon employees say something against Project Nimbus, we fire them! If you have children, you know what this is happening! This is the future you want to see!
In Silicon Valley, in the last 8 months, there's been a rash amongst computational scientists and engineers. There's been an extraordinary rash of suicides. The people that are actually building these models are so affected by it that they are somehow ending their lives. Now, is it because of the work that they're doing? I don't know. No one's investigating it. No one's supposed to talk about it very much. And the whole thing about not supposed to be talking about it, I need to add one thing. A lot of these data centers are being created in the dark. They're being done in secret with city councils and with local politicians. There's all these non-disclosure agreements that they sign on to between AI companies and developers and local government officials. It's in my opinion that these should be illegal, but they're not illegal. And no local government official should sign these NDAs. We need to start a culture where we demand that of our local officials. The point is to circumvent public scrutiny and public involvement. And these the investigations that we've had into the NDAs show that these AI companies like Amazon and Meta and Alphabet and Google, they use all these shell companies. So with all these fake names. Meta had a company in Wisconsin called Dega LLC. Amazon had a shell company in Minnesota called the Project Blue Skies LLC. And in Arizona, there were towns that were planning data centers for over 2 years, keeping it secret from their residents. There was a Minnesota town where residents were 6 months into the construction of the data center before they even learned it was a data center. This is, like I said, this is a crisis of democracy. This is where people feel that they're not having a say, and that this is being imposed on them. And AI is being imposed on us a lot. I spend a lot of time, getting AI off my browser, really trying to push it on us. And it's partly because most technologies that are new and cutting edge and charismatic and glamorous, people really flock to it. A lot of the AI stuff is now becoming part of our culture, and people are assimilating to using it. But it wasn't something that was natural. It really had to be pushed on people. The good news. The good news. All right, to sum up. The future. Welcome to the future. It's broken. Okay. But we can fix it. That's the good news. We can fix it. The best thing for social problems is the exercise of democracy. So where democracy is being suppressed, you've got to exercise it even more. The people who feel unseen and unheard are making themselves seen and heard. And all over the country, we're seeing moratoriums on the local and state level. New York just did a moratorium for 1.5 years for New York State. There's small towns in Wisconsin and Michigan and Minnesota that are doing moratoriums. Small towns are stopping big projects. Pro-data center politicians have been losing their seats. Some are even getting recalled. And 300 plus moratoriums. And this is happening internationally, by the way. Amsterdam, Singapore, Dublin, Ireland. They've all stopped any future data centers. There's an estimated $130 billion worth of AI projects that have been stalled by activists all over the country. And there are 2 data centers in San Jose that are just sitting dormant. And the reason why is because if they were connected up, they would suck up all the electricity for the city. So they're just standing there. And here in Contra Costa, so in Pittsburgh and in Brentwood, there is the AVO data center, which has been permitted to be built. It's going to be built on the former Delta View golf course. The developer is a private equity firm, typical of the type. They have no roots here in the Bay Area. The project is slated to start building next year. So just yesterday was a city council meeting dedicated just to this project. The local people presented a petition of over 25,000 signatures to demand a moratorium on this data center. The people are rising up, they're showing up. And if you saw the meetings about this, the people were passionate. They were in tears. And so many parents, so many children spoke. It's important to note that this data center in East Contra Costa is slated to have 37 backup diesel generators right on the fence line with the Rancho Junior High School, right where the kids are. So this is, and it should be noted there was one person who spoke in favor of the data centers yesterday, and that was the president of the Iron Workers Union. And it's a continuing problem. So the trade unions, of course, are pretty unified in support of the data centers. So the promise of new jobs from data centers is a false one. It creates very few permanent jobs. You see the parking lots for these data centers, they're empty. Sometimes these data centers have less than 12 permanent employees, and that's including the janitors and the site manager. Very few engineers are needed. A lot of it's done remotely. It doesn't create permanent jobs. But what it does create is thousands of temporary construction jobs. And that's why the trades are very united for that. The head of the California Labor Federation, she said that, well, what we should do is we should have the trades build the data centers, we burn them down, and we let them build them again. So, this is where all of us come in. Yes, the system is rotten, but we can repair it. I'm of the opinion that artificial intelligence is not more important than water. And if you forgive me for using a cliche, that water is life. And the simple truth of that statement is inescapable. And what's really required right now is, I think, the birth of a new humanism, in the true sense of the term. And that includes a reverence of nature and of how we're all connected. Forgive me for sounding like this, but the water that we drink and the water that we're giving to the artificial intelligence that is going to replace us shows our lack of comprehension of the beauty of this planet and the beauty of life itself. Artificial intelligence is not life by definition. And it's, I think the crux of the revolt against data centers is people reasserting their humanity, our humanity. And that's worth fighting for. And guess what? Those activists are winning. And we all need to be part of this fight because the future is worth fighting for. And with that, I'm so interested to hear from all of you. I've talked a lot. I'm so interested to hear your questions and also your comments. Thank you so much for showing us. Thank you, Carol. And also, if you can, there is a petition from Food and Water Watch, which is a petition to have a moratorium on data centers on the congressional bill that's in the House session now. Please sign it. You may get some occasional text from Food and Water Watch, but they're good people. They're all right. And with that, I will open the floor to questions. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank
you. Great presentation. I have a question and a quick comment. You talked about water and how they're using potable water and not seawater.
Yes.
But what about gray water? And my comment is you did too effective a job with that Michigan data center noise. It hurt my ears.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
So, FYI.
So, can you imagine the growing psychological tics that grow from hearing that 24/7, inescapable, of living next to that? Even, it's more than it's worse than a highway rumble because it never stops. It never stops. Again, no regulation. There's no auditory levels that are acceptable. Gray water, no. So the corrosion fear for these AI companies for their components is really big. So it has to be super clean water. What they're doing these days, so there's a lot of propagandists. So the AI companies have been a little slow to propagandize in favor of data centers, and they have a lot of canards that creates jobs. We have to compete with China. Just real quick, we have over 5,000 data centers. China has about 456, so we've won that war. So it's a competition. The United States have already won that. But also that the technology is getting better. That they use coolants. That they use water that is repurposed, within the system. But what that does is that coolant water gets dumped into the rivers. It's contaminated itself. They won't tell you what the coolants are. All the coolants that it could be are bad. And so the pollution that's creating is, we haven't even faced the consequences of that yet. So to answer your question, yeah.
The companies that are building these data centers right now, it appears as though they're individually, the company is contracting to build a particular data center. Is there any thought for cooperation between the companies to share data centers?
No. So it is a real arms race of data centers. So they're really in competition with each other. And it was really at a fever pitch the end of last year, the beginning of this year. And so the competition was getting the biggest data center campus possible. And so some found it in Texas, some found it in Utah, but no, they're competing against each other for more and more. Now, it's not sustainable in terms of resources. It's also not sustainable financially. So a lot of investors are looking at this and saying, you know what, we're never going to get a return on this investment. Yeah, I mean, the scaling up that is expected, it will happen, but the scaling up of the company won't to make back the investment. So even the investors are kind of looking askance at all this, which also brings up the possibility of when the AI bubble bursts of an AI bailout by us and taxpayers. We got to make sure that that does not happen. These people that care nothing about the future of the planet and the future of our children and our families, they shouldn't be the ones to be getting out of the hole that they put themselves in. So.
I've got so many things I'm going to try to be brief. I'm in the middle of reading a book, which you're probably aware of, called If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies. And I would commend everyone to it's written in plain English, and it's about the threats of data centers. But as I listen to you tonight, I'm struck by the failure of public organizations to manage this. I mean, how did these things get built with zoning laws? I mean, it seems to me that one municipality after another has failed. What can we do, and what is being done to try to improve the power and the control by public entities?
I'll be frank with you. So we truly do live in an oligarchy. The interests of the rich are tended to long before the needs of regular people. And because of the huge amounts of money that are being thrown at these projects, it's really easy to come in and, this is a terrible term that they use in Sacramento, for a city council to be under an industry capture, is what they say. It means that they're all bought off. And so that happened really quick, and that was the intention. And it really caught a lot of organizations unawares. I'd have to say Sierra Club was not up on this, and also because a lot of public organizations are constantly flirting with big tech money to come into their organizations as donors. And also there's a bit of a utopian promise of AI that is natural, that it will do great things for us, but it's in the future. We're going to have to go through these growing pains before they happen. I don't believe that a lot of these companies have the best interests of the people at heart. I don't think they're creating projects that are actually going to improve humanity. I'm happy to be proven wrong, but it looks like they're just looking to make money. Yes. So I don't know if I answered your question.
But what about zoning laws? How could that data center in Michigan be built and allow that kind of noise?
Isn't it amazing when housing or parks need to be built, they have to go through a lot of review and it takes years and years. But if some corporation comes in and wants a data center, the size of Texas, the size of Manhattan, they get approval.
Money talks.
And money talks. It really is, and it's also city governments have been so lacking of. How do I put this? There hasn't been enough scrutiny on the local level. We get really tied up on the national level, as we should, but the things that are happening right underneath our noses is the stuff that's going to be affecting us the most.
I suspect the cities and city councils are overwhelmed with not knowing enough about this.
There is that. There is that. Also, I can tell you firsthand, the lobbyists for these companies, they're the most charming, they're the most erudite. They have the promise. They generate the promise of a life after their city council time that will, include what they're seeing. It's really diabolical how their future is glamorous if they approve this data center. Yeah.
Yeah. So given the likelihood of a boom to bust, at the risk of sounding naive, is there any real potential for a middle ground where there is some value to AI, and we strike a middle ground purposely trying to avoid the boom and bust? One thing that occurs to me is we make a point of doing this where we desalinize, water from the sea or whatever, just as one example, where we're not stealing from farmland and drinking water. Is there any serious talk of a middle ground?
So Ron and I talked earlier about the possible medical breakthroughs that artificial intelligence could possibly bring about. I'll tell you why I'm skeptical of that. What AI is really good at doing is computation, so mathematical stuff, and cutting and pasting from previously created human endeavors. And just real quick, we call it artificial intelligence, but it's really human intelligence. It is the wealth of human creativity and human knowledge that is being processed and being spit back to us, compiled, and that's what it is currently. Now, the medical promise, boy, I hear a lot of, that's tantalizing, it's been dangled in front of me many times, but I have not seen the programs and projects that are following that. Maybe they're happening in secret. I get the feeling that they're not at this point. At this point, I don't think that's actually happening. Maybe. I'm happy to be proven wrong. One of the things that Elon Musk is putting forward is that we're going to have all these data centers in space.
Yeah.
So it's very cool out past the stratosphere, and also as part of his globalization of colonizing of the of outer space. It's so interesting. These billionaires are considered to be great thinkers and highly intelligent, or they're at least surrounded by people of great intelligence. But they don't seem to realize that we are Earthlings. Our existence and our survival is contingent on every other being, every other creature on this planet, from the food that we eat, from the bacteria that's in our gut. I mean, we colonize Mars, and maybe we could get there, but even the muscle that we have to be on Earth, I mean, maybe if we survived, but we wouldn't be humans anymore. We'd have to be something else. We'd have to become something else. So a lot of these fantasies are strange, and also I'm very skeptical of the technology and the engineering that it would take to have data centers in outer space. Yeah. Oh, so many questions.
Right here.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I'm afraid I disagree with you a great deal.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. In the United States today, we use about 28 million gigawatt hours of energy across the entire country. Only 4 million of that is electricity, and only less than 2% of that is actually for data centers. Most of our use of energy is gasoline, oil, natural gas, etc. You're concerned about the size of a data center. Have you looked at an oil field? It takes up half of Texas. This is not a problem. The oil companies today are spending $3.3 trillion on expanding oil. In the last quarter, the oil companies, Chevron, Exxon, Shell, BP, made $93 billion in profit, mostly because of Trump's superb war. But the point I'm making is, it's gasoline, it's oil, it's fossil fuels that are destroying our planet, that are causing climate change, that are killing human beings. It is not data centers. And for the Sierra Club and environmentalists like us to take our eyes off fossil fuels is absolutely wrong. This is where we need to be spending our time, our energy, and our expertise, not on stupid things.
All right, so don't get me wrong. I'm very happy to have the conversation about gas and the carbon emissions. I'm very happy to have that conversation too. But don't forget where that electricity comes from, and how it's made. Natural gas, it's not enough. Not enough. So we're still talking about the same problem. So I beg to differ, but I agree with you completely. And by the way, I'm not, as I'm here, I'm not speaking on behalf of Sierra Club policy. Just want you to know that. But I politely disagree, but I do agree about oil and gas. Believe me, I do. Believe me, I do. Go ahead, yeah.
Why would not a company like Google or Amazon be motivated to position themselves as a good neighbor by building these things 15 and 20 miles outside of these towns, so nobody has to deal with the noise? That's not too far for employees to go for employment. What is the reason that they choose these noisy places instead of taking the business outside of, we got a lot of land in this country, so why are they not moving them out?
They increasingly are. A lot of these permits came in, they secured them before there was artificial intelligence data centers. So they were able to get the permits. Also, the flatness of the land in which these data centers are created is really important. And also the cheapness of the land is part of the arms race between these companies. So that flatness and the cheapness, if it's next to a neighborhood full of people, they're going to go for it. It has a power line, they're going to go for it. So it's really that simple.
I grew up in North Dakota. Talk about flat.
Two more questions.
One over there.
Oh. I just am wondering, when you speak of intelligence.
Hold the mic closer.
Oh, I'm sorry. When you speak of intelligence, artificial or not artificial, where is the intelligence that would allow this to happen? Has anybody run the the computations about the outcomes of all of these very destructive? Isn't there a big picture somewhere? Sorry, I'm not much for microphones. Isn't there a big picture somewhere? They know what they're doing, and they're willing to destroy the earth in order to create intelligence. I don't find that to be intelligent.
I concur.
It's called greed.
I'll take that as a comment. I've noticed with extraordinarily wealthy people, and these, as F. Scott Fitzgerald said, the rich aren't like us. And these are spectacularly out of this world rich people. I mean, they're in another universe of wealth. They think what they're doing is utopian. They think what they're doing is really cool at the very least. And the ones that are a little bit self-aware, like you say, they say, "Oh, my kids will figure it out," as they're on their yacht, as they're on their private jet. They said, "My kids will figure it out." This is the parade of progress that the human species has always gone through. So that's what they tell themselves. Yeah.
When neighbors interfere with their neighbors' lives, there are lawsuits for interference with enjoyment and so forth. You haven't mentioned, or I haven't heard you mention, anything about lawsuits to enjoin the building of these centers.
So that's very good. So there's a lot of lawsuits. These data centers are bad neighbors. They keep you up all at night. They have lights that are shining into your windows. There's the trucks that are coming in and out. There's just the sheer noise. So there are those lawsuits, and they're being slow rolled. There hasn't been a lot of big verdicts yet. Also, the intellectual property theft that I talked about with the book burning. The burning of the books is about not having to deal with intellectual property and not having to deal with the estates of writers and of all these things. And so there are large lawsuits against these AI companies, like from the Writers Guild, which I'm part of, Writers Guild West Coast, anybody? And we need to understand they're not just scanning and destroying, but they're stealing this from our collective heritage. This is our collective heritage, the cultural legacy of our forebears, of other cultures. It belongs to all of us as human beings. And artificial intelligence, I said it can do mathematical computation. I don't think the mathematical perfection of Johann Sebastian Bach can be duplicated by artificial intelligence. I've heard attempts because they lack that human touch. They lack the human element. They don't know in that mathematical melody that Johann Sebastian Bach was thinking of his dead wife and his children. They can't put that in there.
They lack heart.
They lack heart. AI cannot raise a child. AI cannot put out a fire. AI is basically a fire. Every time you do every time an AI thing is started, it's like starting a fire and you need a cup of water to put it out. And also, AI will never have the wildness and craziness of us human beings. You know? They could try to match, Beethoven in terms of structure, but they could never capture his wildness or that bit of insanity that makes him immortal. They'll never be able to do. But it's my opinion that no matter how amateur or how inexperienced you are as a human being, your act of creativity, your act of thought, your act of saying that I am here, I existed, and I thought this, and I felt this, and I created this, that is going to have more value than anything artificial intelligence could create. I don't care how amateur or how untalented you think you are. Just because you are a human being and you said you were here and you felt this at this moment, that is more valuable than anything artificial intelligence can create as it compiles something from the past. And with that, I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for having a private conversation.
Thank you so much, Mark. This was a great discussion and it was a great presentation. I think we all learned a lot. Be sure to join us next month, September 1st. Our speaker will be Dr. Andrew Gunther, who's an environmental scientist of some acclaim. So please join us next month. Thank you.